Being a dad is hard. It's high stakes. It takes a toll on our self-worth, mental health, and can be lonely. But why would we ever want to do something so important in isolation? Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads, is quite simply two normal dads having conversations about, you guessed it, being a dad. The highs, the lows, and the learnings along the way. We are four dads. We want to remedy the deficiency we see in community for dads, and we want to ruthlessly encourage dads on their journey to build lasting legacy for the faces they love the most.
All right, Eric, we're back, and we got some friends joining us today, and I'm pumped for this conversation, mainly because you get to flex your humility muscle a little bit, eat a little bit of crow in person. Let me give a little bit of context, and then you dive in. So I've been really good friends with a couple guys who started an agency in Chattanooga called Whiteboard. And they worked with Auro for a number of years. And a couple years ago, as a gift, they sent me this box. And I think the letter that came along with it said, we're gifting you a year of this membership, this program with Auro, because we want you to spend more intentional time with your family. Okay? You follow
I
me here?
remember, yeah.
So 6 months ago, we were recording an episode, and I told you that I'm trying to use this to spend more time with my family. And, you know, this podcast, it's all about encouragement. I feel like you made fun of me. You told me I could have used a shoebox. This is not a necessary technology.
We're reliving it like that hard.
Maybe we can find the clip of it. And now here we are with the founders of that very organization. Tell us how we got here, and then let's introduce Joey and Heath.
Well, yes, we are here. That's an accurate representation of what occurred. The funny thing is I was listening to I don't know if it was, we'll have to, it doesn't matter the podcast, but I was listening to like a dad-focused podcast, and I heard Joey, like after our interaction, and I like had this pit in my stomach because I was like, oh, because I can remember vividly, and I wasn't like over the top, but I did say, hey, like you could have used, I have a shoebox for you. It wasn't kind. It was not kind. But I heard Joey, I heard the mission of this, and I was like, dude, Kevin, like I messed up. And remember I came to you, I was like, hey, like this is, I want to hear about this product. You were raving about it. And then went and recorded and said, look, I said, listen to the fountain. I'm sorry. I messed up. This thing is really a cool thing. And these guys were kind enough to listen to my response. They had a couple of things that they wanted to say, rightfully so. They, gave me back a little bit, which I love. But it's all in good fun, and I'm glad we're here. But we're here now talking, you guys. We're pumped to have you guys. And
yeah, what a cool honor to have Joey and Heath on the podcast. They are two incredible dads. Why don't you guys share your side of the story, and then we'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your families. So Joey, Heath, kick it off.
Yeah, well, I will say that my barometer for someone I want to hang out with is if we can immediately begin making fun of each other. Like that to me, like those are my guys. Like if we can start making fun of each other, then we can hang out. So I think we found kindred spirits when we just instantly began making fun of each other. And we're used to the haters. I personally, Heath may not be, I am also just personally used to the haters. So our social media team posted a video, and for those just listening, not watching on video, I have this is a dad podcast, but I have the hair of a mom. So it's a little bit longer hair. And someone they posted one, the caption on our video the other day was, your kids notice when you're not present, or something like that. And one of the comments was, and it's me saying it with my long hair, and I think one of the comments said, have your kids noticed that you straighten your hair? So it's
use a hair straightener.
You use a hair straightener. So we get a bunch of this. So man, we got this. I thought it was a very, very clever post by you guys. It was, I think you even tagged us in it, just with Eric eating crow. And it was fun. And instantly Heath said, oh, we got to come back here.
Yeah. And I don't have a full head of hair. So I get other jokes for different reasons. So no, we loved it. We're happy to be here. We're excited to tell the story, hear more about what you guys are doing.
And by the way, I didn't know the whiteboard connection. I didn't know Eric and Taylor. I had no idea that was the genesis. And then I did find out Eric and I share one of my best friends, Dave McIntosh. We share friends with Dave. We're mutual friends. Dave and I have known each other for 20 years. Dave lives in the same neighborhood as Eric. So this was kind of meant to be, fellas.
Totally.
This is meant to be.
I totally agree. So listen, when I've now that we're all buddies, I've kind of gone ahead and I've seen kind of the origin story, like the thought, like actually what I want to do is I want to hear about y'all's dads. Tell me about your families, your wives real quick, because let's start there, but I want to get into kind of what you guys do, because it is a beautiful thing for our listeners to listen to. But why don't we start with who you guys are?
Man, what an interesting time to ask that question to me. So I'll tell you about my dad first, but then I'll tell you why it's interesting. So my parents have been married, I don't know, 50 plus years at this point. Both my dad's mid 70s, my mom's early 80s. Just amazing people, mentors, friends, of course, helped me through some tough times growing up, but still so close, value so much. My propensity towards giving all came from my parents. It was just something that was ingrained in me. And I think that, a lot of what you become as an adult is what you see, not what you hear, but what you see. And I think that, that'll make more sense as we get further into the conversation. But man, just have such a great relationship with them, continued to mature and flourish as I got older, as those things do. I'm now a dad of 4 kids, and tomorrow I move one of those children into college. I moved one in last week as well. We have twins. Our oldest 2 are twins. So one is now in his first week of school. The other will start school, next week. So I'm in this weird, transitional stage where hopefully I did enough good things as a dad to where they are launching well and going to have a good experience as young adults in this, awesome time of their life. But what an opportunity you guys have to speak into younger dads, right? Younger dads who have another decade plus with their kids to get some things right that I messed up, to look around the corner and fix a few things where I made mistakes. Auro is a story of failure and mistakes, and we'll get into that. But thankfully, I've made more good decisions than bad, I hope. And then I have 2 younger kids. So my middle son is a junior in high school, so a couple more years with him, though he is driving, so which basically means he's gone. And then my youngest daughter is 14. She is in 8th grade. We've got infertility stories in our past. We've got an adoption story in our family. So we've got a whole mixed bag of stories and fun along the way.
Love it. Another,
what Heath didn't mention in that story, Heath is very good at being very steady and very stoic, and he has just turned into a crying little baby as he's dropped his kids off of school. I mean, it's like I'm the crier in our business partnership, and man, he is just a little baby. He just keeps crying, and we could probably get him into it right now if we wanted to, but it's interesting for us, my wife Kristen and I, we've been married for 20 years. We met in college. And we have a 16-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. So we're actually, all joking aside, we get the benefit of sitting a couple years behind to see these things ahead of them. I would say our daughters are pretty similar.
Yeah.
My daughter's just, 4 years younger, 3 years younger. And so we're able to kind of see that. And Heath and Misty are just so masterful at navigating new things, which for us, we'll be able to see it a second time around. We kind of get the hand-me-downs, both just kind of metaphorically and literally. My daughter literally wears his daughter's hand-me-down school uniform. So it's, we're, like Heath said, this is our family. Our family was unfortunately on the receiving side, my kids, my wife, on the receiving side of a lot of physical presence, but lack of actual presence for years. And that's why Auro began, like Heath said, it began as stories of missing moments and just having this idea inside of us. And it really was a question, which was, what if? Like, what if the world could look different? What if this isn't how all families had to operate? What if we're not going to be subjected as a family or as a culture into just being lured into technology and there's nothing we can do about it? So that really was the beginning, as a feeling of messing up and then saying, but what if things could look different?
I love, the creating a new generation of intentional families is an amazing mission. So you kind of hit on the start of it, but Joey, I heard kind of the missing moments piece, but man, there was a soccer story that when I heard that soccer field that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd love for you to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, this relates to my son Harrison, who's now 16, and when he was 5 years old, so 11 years ago, Harrison was playing in his very first soccer season. And for anybody, I'm sure dads who can relate to this, as you think about your kids and you think about being involved in youth sports, that the most successful kids on a soccer field are the aggressive ones, the ones who appear to be on some kind of parole program, maybe live in a halfway house, like the real aggressive kids, like Dave and Shelley's kids. The real aggressive, great, successful soccer players. No, love them.
Yeah.
But he, this year, was not one of those kids, nor has he been that kid. He's just a great kid. And so everybody on the team this year had scored a soccer goal except for Harrison. And so we lug our lawn chairs out to the sidelines on another Saturday afternoon. And this game, though, this particular Saturday, something extraordinary happened, and it happened about midway through the game. And Kevin and Eric, this moment kind of plays in my head almost like a movie, like the slow motion, dramatic James Horner music as Harrison rears back his leg and he kicks the ball and it glides over the grass into the back of the net for his very first soccer goal. And these sweet parents, they all knew that everybody had scored a goal except for Harrison. So they go nuts. His coach runs out. His coach lifts him up over his head. There's this little split second, though, that this moment right in between the ball going to the back of the net and his coach lifting him up when Harrison did what 5-year-old boys do. Harrison turned to the sidelines to lock eyes with me, to see, the pride on my face and the smile on my face, and just to share this really magical moment, this once in a life moment, your very first soccer goal. And it was really, truly perfect, except I missed everything I just described. See, when Harrison looked over at the sidelines at me, all he saw was the top of my head because I was looking down at my phone. Now, you may ask, what were you looking at your phone? What was so important in that moment? And the truth is, I have no idea. I mean, it could have been the most important work email ever. It could have been a group text. It could have been a bunch of different things. But all I know is it didn't matter to Harrison. It could have been the most important email ever, but when he looked over, he just didn't see my eyes. And I had this realization, guys. And by the way, as I've told this story, I've heard from a lot of parents, I can share that too. I can relate to that too. And the truth is, a lot of us don't know what we aren't missing. Who knows when our kids, I just know that because my wife told me. I didn't have any awareness of it otherwise. So I just realized that something was wrong. And really even more so that this relationship with my phone was getting in the way of my most important relationships. Everyone around me, because I have this relationship with the device that was getting in the way of the people that I had prayed for and I had hoped for, and all the stuff that you go through. Heath mentioned infertility. People go through so many issues to get pregnant, yet we find ourselves squandering these moments with these people that we've hoped for and prayed for because the relationship with our phones is getting in the way.
Can you guys talk a little bit about, because that story moves me. It makes me think about some of the moments that I've had and that I may be missing. Can you tell us some of the data? Because I know there's some people out there that say, yeah, that's it, but it's not really that big of a problem. What inspired you guys to create this business?
I mean, a lot of the inspiration, honestly, was truly from just the mistakes that we had made. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, so my kids were, late elementary, middle school, 8 or 10 years ago, and I was bad on my phone. I mean, I was an entrepreneur, so I felt important, right? I had my identity built around my business, and I just stayed connected all the time. And my wife, she would say, Heath, you are here, but you're not here, right? Like, you're in the room, but you're not anywhere in the stratosphere, with us right now. So I kind of woke up one day. I had this business. I had moved on from the business, and I just sat around and I thought, gosh, look, my kids are a couple years away from getting a device, which, by the way, back then was 14 or 15, now it's 10 or 11. So the problem's even more, exaggerated. And I thought, wow, if they do what Dad did, if they model the behavior that I've had with my device, this is going to be a disaster, right? And then when you start looking at the data and you realize, 91% of us keep our phones with us 24 hours a day, 89% of the interaction we have with our phone is self-initiated, the number of hours we're spending on the screen, the access to these things, the dopamine, rush, all these things, science, everything's working against us, right? And thought there's got to be something out there that could solve this. And so I tried different apps. Frankly, I tried Willpower. I was just like, I'm not going to use it, right? I'll put it in the car, I'll put it in a box, you name it. And it just never happened. And I say that because I have a lot of willpower. Like when it comes to being disciplined, I'm pretty good. Like, I'll put myself in the top X%, right? And I just could not solve this thing. And I thought, if I'm struggling with this, I bet a lot of people are struggling with this. And then when Joey and I had a conversation, he said, absolutely. Like, this is a pain point in my life. So we're out one day and I said, hey, let's just go try to solve this. I've got some time, I've got ideas, we've got some resources. This was right when COVID started. So, the world had upended a little bit, gave us more time to think through it. And it really honestly started as a passion project. When I first approached Joey, I said, look, I'm willing to spend a lot of money to solve this for my family. I think if we could solve it for mine, we can solve it for yours. And then maybe we can solve it for a lot more, because I believe screen time technology is the number one battlefield in most families. And I say, I've got 3 teenagers. Like, we talk about this more than we do sex, drugs, and alcohol. It really is the number one topic. And it's the number one topic when they're 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's such it's such a culturally relevant topic, and I just don't think we paid enough attention to the damage that it's doing to those around us.
Well, I'll jump in with the damage on our kids. It's very easy in this topic, guys, to think it's almost like you go to church and you think like, man, I wish such and such were here to hear this. You know what I mean? Versus saying, okay, wait a second, hold on. Maybe this message is actually for me. And so it's very easy to blame our kids. It's very easy to, oh yeah, my wife is terrible about her phone. Everybody, it's so easy to blame. But the real key is like, okay, this begins with me. And I think as we see the damage it's doing to our kids, this is where we really need to pay attention. And not only our marriages, actually, I'll even start with our marriages. The Gottman Institute released a study that said that 86 couples who remain married turn towards their partner's bids for emotional connection 86% of the time. While couples who get divorced, who don't make it, they only turn towards their partner's bids for emotional connection 33% of the time. And so when we say turn towards, I think we're talking emotionally. Certainly when your wife puts out a bid there that just says, I've had a bad day, and you kind of keep looking at your phone, like that was a bid she put out that she wanted you to buy back into. And that puts you probably closer to that 33% versus the 86% when you say, oh, tell me about that. And you literally, not just emotionally, but literally turn towards them. And we are in a moment in culture where it has become physically and emotionally impossible to turn towards when we're holding our phones. It's just actually impossible. This thing, with its constant proximity to us. So it's damaging the intimacy in our marriages. But then you think about for our kids, and this is where most of us really perk up, is when we think, and by the way, this is when smoking changed, is when we realized that the smoking wasn't just bad for us, but the secondhand smoke is killing our kids. So this digital secondhand smoker blowing all over our kids is crushing them. And when you look at the statistics, about 17 years ago, something interesting happened. And teenage unhappiness began to rise. And that led into suicidal ideation and pronounced levels of anxiety within kids. And it corresponds precisely with the ubiquity of smartphones. And what I would say is people will say, oh yeah, of course, kids are always on their phones. Hold on a second. The real problem is we now, and I can say this directly because we can say it to dads, we now have a generation of kids who have grown up with parents who have been looking at a screen instead of their eyes. That's the problem. The problem is not them. The problem is not they're drowning in this, world of TikTok. I get it. But the real core root of that is that they've learned it from us, that we're the ones that are on our phones all the time. So what do we expect them to do? What's normal for them? They're just going to do the exact thing that they've seen us do for years, right? And so the problem for us is it's our behavior. And I'm just going to call out dads because that's who messed up on this call. That was me and that was Heath. I'm going to call out dads and say, fellas, it's us. It's our usage of our phones that's making it normal for our kids. It's our usage of our phones that's pushing our wives farther away. And maybe they are trying to escape a little bit on their phones, but I believe it's because of our initiation of this topic. So it's on us to do something because it is causing irreparable. I will say irreparable. If it continues on, it's irreparable. I actually think it's majorly recoverable if we begin to do something about it. But we are causing damage to our most important relationships because of the way that we are using our phones and the way we're modeling that behavior to our kids.
Yeah, it's just hearing you, I'm convicted. I've heard you all speak before, but even more so just hearing it in your voice, seeing your face. Like, I know that this is something that is so meaningful to you because it's personal, but it's not like, oh, some guys would, every single person that's listening to this, yep, I promise, is saying, yep, he's spot on. And it's so funny because you mentioned about it's us. My dad would always give us a hard time about this generation, everybody gets a trophy. I'm like, well, I grew up getting it. Like, that was the dad's decision to give everybody trophies. Like, I wasn't a 6-year-old that said, hey, like, I should get a trophy for showing up. At some point that changed, and then you grew up in that. And so it's just amazing how that works, but it really well said. As a user now, there's a lot of things, but 3 things that really stuck out. And I want to hear your guys. Our listeners now are like, what is this? You guys haven't really gone into what it is, so I want to give you a chance to do that. For me, there's not much my wife allows me to put on counters. Okay, so the design of this box is fantastic. It was very clear that you guys put a lot into the design of it. So number 1. Number 2, the gamification aspect of the app. Like, we've all been, I grew up playing video games. Gamification is very important to keep our attention. I love the gamification in the app. And the third thing, I love it's something you can do together. So our kids, we got 4. My boys are 11 and 8, and I've got twins as well. My twin girls are 4. They don't have devices, but Brittany and I, it's become kind of a competition, and we can do it together. But why don't you just take a step back, share with the listeners who might not be familiar with what this is. Tell us about the product. Tell us about how it works. I think it's really important for us to hear from you guys.
Yeah, well, let's go back to the beginning. So when I started feeling some tension around this, I started very low tech. I literally went and got, a shoebox. Actually, it was a shampoo box, which is kind of funny when you see a picture of me without hair. But I found my wife's shampoo box. I cut a hole in the back. I drug a cord through it and said, you know what, I'm going to start putting my phone in here. And every time I put it in here, I'm going to log what I'm doing, right? I'm going to be very intentional about doing so. And along the way, I want to see if others start to model my behavior, if my wife will do it at the same time. And I'm not really going to I'm not going to push her to do it, just see if it happens naturally. Well, it didn't. And by the way, I didn't continue. I think I journaled twice because there was friction in doing that. And it hit me. It was like, man, we need to build if we're going to build something, it has to be beautiful. It's going to live in a kitchen, counter in a family room, as you were alluding to there, Eric. So it's got to be wife approved. So there's a real high edge or a high end design aspect to it, interior design aspect to it. But it also has to be frictionless, right? We need it to be easy to track your time. Really what we're trying to do is gamify the whole experience of off-screen time versus on-screen time. We all get the report from Apple, hey, you spent this much time on your phone. It does nothing but induce shame, right? And no one changes their behavior based on guilt and shame. So we wanted to do the opposite, to say, you should be proud of the time you spend off your phone, right? You should be able to look back in time and say, look at how much time I spent with my daughter or my wife, or family dinners without a phone, or watching a movie without a phone, or reading, or Bible study, whatever. So have this beautiful, historical journal of what you're doing. But we've got to make it so easy for you to put down your phone, because the only way to solve this problem is by removing the proximity of the device. If I've got my phone, I'm going to use it, period, right? I'm going to do something, check the weather, check the score, check the Braves score, whatever. See if they finally got someone to replace Riley, whatever it is, whatever's happening, I need to know, right? And inevitably, it goes down a wormhole of, I'm just going to check that email, or I'm going to do this, and 45 minutes later, I'm watching cat videos, and it's like, oh my gosh, what happened? So we solve the proximity by making it easy to put it away, by gamifying that experience, as you say. But at the highest level, it is a screen time solution for families, and not just families who have kids with phone, right? We thought that would be the case because we have a bunch of kids with phones at this point. It's actually been more well received for families with kids that don't have phones, because a couple reasons. One is those parents are thinking about the future, and they're actually putting in the investment now to say, we're going to change the trajectory of how our kids view these devices. So by the time they get one, it's very natural for them to put it away or put it down, because they've seen mom and dad do it for years. It's natural for us not to have it in our bedrooms because mom and dad never did, or mom and dad don't have the kitchen table, or they don't watch a movie and also scroll their phone, right? So you normalize that behavior. The second part is kids love to play along. And I can't tell you how many pictures we get from families with their kids literally crafting their own cell phone at 5 years old out of cardboard, or taking a toy phone and putting it in. Or the best one, I would say, is the kids actually putting their parents' phone in on behalf of them. So it's the parents who really level up are the ones who say, hey, Susie, Johnny, actually, will you put my phone in Auro for me? So again, you're teaching them and training them and building that digital muscle for them. So by the time, and who knows, maybe the age is 6 in a few years now, it keeps trending downwards. But by the time they get this magical device, their experience, their habits, the rhythms with it are just so different than what my kids experienced.
Now, one thing I'll add to that is when we started Auro, again, it's at its core, it's a screen time solution for families. And we said, hey, you got to have a box for it. And then an app connects to it. What we found is actually the opposite is true, is that families and Auro members have said, hey, I'd love to use the app independently. What about when I'm traveling? I'd love to track the time I'm away from my phone. I love that gamification, just these constant reminders. So Auro, as it exists today, anybody listening today, in fact, can download the Auro app and experience Auro for, we give it 7 days for you to try it to see if it works for you. You don't have to buy a box out of the gate. And you can actually experience Auro with an app only. And then at some point, if you say, hey, I'd like to level up, then you can purchase a box as well to have that physical place for your phone. But it's been very interesting to us because we did, to Heath's point, we thought at the beginning it had to be this physical place, and that is a great level up. But that entry point for the person who's saying, hey, I'm struggling with this and what's my next best step? Well, it's super easy now to approach that. And we're hearing stories from people all across the country, thousands and thousands of people who are saying, hey, this app, which is so ironic that the solution can be located inside of the problem, by downloading an app, this will make a marked difference on your usage of your phone, because it's built all around the habit loop, which is a cue, which leads to a routine, which leads to a reward. All of that is built into the built into the Auro system that helps it make it easy for you to break that constant proximity to your phone.
I love it. And just a thought, and then Kevin, let you jump in, but I travel a good amount, and so it's been helpful to have that functionality on the app. But I'll tell you, there's something really meaningful about modeling the behavior to your kids and walking over, opening the box, putting the phone in. The behavior, that modeling is important, but then it also allows you to kind of have that conversation. Like, this goes in here. Like, you're more important than this. And they have to see that because, to your point, I can have the best of intentions. I was at our office earlier today, and I'm in the elevator. I've got my phone's in my pocket. Get to the elevator. There's 2 or 3 people in, and like, it's just human nature now. Like, let me get my phone. I'm like, put it in your pocket, but it's in your pocket. It's there. And so that the box to me is it's just, first of all, just a really helpful way to model that.
Yeah. Well, to your point there, the number one predictor, and this is statistically proven, the number one predictor, and this is especially for people who have younger kids, just like yours, who don't have phones yet, the number one predictor for how your child will use their phone someday is how you use your phone today. So what you are modeling, and this is for people who are really thinking a little bit ahead. Heath alluded to that. People who are thinking ahead who are saying, like, I would rather not take a painkiller someday. I'd rather take a vitamin today. I'd rather do the things that are going to set me up for success, because the stakes are high no matter the age. But if your kids are young, the pain is low for you to model this good behavior, for them to see it, and then it will become normal. This is how anything works. And back to the smoking analogy, when they started tracking adult smoking to now, it's and this is over the last, call it 40 years, it's decreased by 78%. Adult smoking has decreased by 78% since they started tracking it. And they also started tracking kids smoking to now, adolescent smoking. And that's down, since they began tracking it to now, 78%, the exact same amount. And so it's clear, and we know this from our lived experience, our kids are just going to do what we do, right? They're going to do exactly what we do. So for those who are thinking ahead and say, okay, I think I'm going to model the way here for them. And this is not just all about modeling. This really is about capturing moments with them, right? I mean, so and Heath is experiencing this right now. The statistics play this out, is that by the time our kids are 18 years old, we will have spent 90% of the time we will ever spend with them. By the time they're 12 years old, we will have spent 75% of the time we will ever spend with our kids. And so you think, like, okay, yeah, that kind of sucks, but that gives us an opportunity to extend that. So if you spend 2 hours a day apart from your phone, let's say you're engaged with your kids, you've gained back 30 days throughout the course of a year. So you can add literally months of your time with your kids before they turn 18 years old and they go away, just like Heath's. Really leaving them, they're probably never going to come back either, is my guess. But we can actually increase the time with the people who are most important to us by modeling this, by doing it ourselves, and really by being in the moment with the people that are most important to us.
I'm sorry, this is completely off topic, but I was pulling into my garage last night, and I played this game where I try to get the top of the car as close to the bottom of the garage door as possible. Like, what am I doing? And then it hit me, and I had this flashback to my dad. He did it every night when I was growing up, and I thought to myself, I started like consciously driving slower a couple years ago, because I used to be a pretty aggressive driver, because I heard my kids one night say, well, tell me I drive aggressively. And I thought, oh, crud, like, they're getting a car, like, they're going to do what dad does. And then as I rolled that forward, I was like, well, let's just assume that I was a guy that liked to throw double birds and cuss and like do all these things. And like, what would I expect my kids to do? And I think it's interesting. Like, we've defined the age when kids drive, so we start to model differently, or we give them classes, we do all these things to make sure that they're prepared for it. But then we give them these devices, and we haven't thought about any of these things. Most of us have modeled it poorly, and then we say, hey, go figure it out, right? Or we'll lock it down, like we'll put a governor, or try to put a governor on it. So it's just so fascinating how we're just starting to catch up with the rhythms around, what does it mean to actually launch our kids well into this phase of life?
It's good. I'm hesitant to weigh in because I'm inspired and I'm challenged, and I'd also like some plausible deniability, because at some point, this has already happened a couple times with the podcast. Laura will listen to these episodes and she's like, when you were talking to Eric, you said this. How about this now? And if this were an easy challenge to solve, your product wouldn't be necessary.
Yep.
So I think we know that's a problem. I would love to just switch for a second to talk about the business side of this, because one of the things that Eric and I have brought up a lot on this podcast is the idea that it is good for children to see dads going after things that are important, working. You can swing to this whole other side of, I'm just going to be completely present with my kids, but we want them to see us working. You guys are mission-minded entrepreneurs. How do you talk to your kids about your work, both with Auro and other things, and why you think that matters?
I want to set the stage for your answer. And just as a little background, when Heath texted me about this, and he may have touched on this, when Heath texted me about this, Heath had sold his previous business and Heath was retired. Heath was not working. Heath did not need to work. So what's interesting to set the stage for that is this is an unnecessary venture for Heath from a vocational perspective. So I would love for you to answer, but I think that's helpful context on how you've talked to your kids about it, in saying like, yeah, I don't need to, but I'm doing this because it's important.
Yeah, well, so I was the chief sinner of working too much, typical workaholic, and that spilled over into my connectedness. And back when we started, we didn't have phones, and it was BlackBerries, then it was the iPhone. So we, the true like smartphone era was only the last few years of that first company. I made a lot of mistakes, and not just with work. Like I'm one of these people that when I jump into something, whether it's CrossFit or I did Ironman for a couple of years, like I am all in, and it's usually at the expense of my family. And my wife, if she listens to the podcast, she would be nodding her head right now, because it's the truth. Like if you had to give up work or family, I normally gave up family to achieve these goals. So when Joey and I got together for Auro, I said, look, I don't have to do this, of course, but I really want to do this, but I know how I'm wired. So let's have this conversation up front as a family, my family, but let's actually also have it as two friends and our families together. So actually the first thing we did was Kristen, Joey's wife, Misty, my wife, all four of us went out to dinner, and we actually wrote down, like, here's some non-negotiables. Oh, and by the way, we kind of leveled up our friendship a bit and said, we're not just friends, like we're entering into a covenant friendship where we have the ability to speak into each other's lives. Encouragement, yes, but also rebuke. So, hey, Kristen, feel free to call me anytime if Joey's like gotten off the rails, or same for Joey or Misty. Like, so we have a very interesting relationship between the four of us on how we kind of keep each other in line. Because again, we're both wired to go off a little bit. With my kids, they know this is a passion for me, but they also know like how ridiculous would it be for us to be hypocrites around being present, spending time with those that matter, if we're doing that on camera but not at home. So actually the business has been great because it's forced us to kind of practice what we preach. But I don't think that would have happened had we not sat down early on and said, this is what's most important. Like, if we can't build this business with normalish working hours, then let's not just build the business. It's just not worth it, particularly at this stage of life. But man, it's tough, because if you are an achiever, I don't know, Enneagram 3 or any of these other things, like it is so hard to dial it back. So hard to dial it back. So it's a constant struggle. It's not like I've solved it. This is a journaling thing. This is a prayer thing. This is a get away for 48 hours at a time and like reset thing. There's so many rhythms I've had to build into my life to kind of bring me back to center.
Heath, let's talk about that just for a second, because you just ticked off some things. I'm curious, beyond your product, what are some of those other skills or habits or rhythms that you put into place to be more intentional as a dad?
Yeah. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, we really started prioritizing family dinners. So, get home at a decent time. I like to cook, so I would cook for the family. But, obviously we don't have any electronics at the table. It's just, it goes without saying. But, I kind of take that for granted, but I don't think a lot of families have that discipline and rhythm to do so. So if you're not, I would highly encourage you to say, you know what, the dinner table is a sacred time and a sacred space for us. Put your phones down. If you've got a box or a drawer or flip, just get them out of the equation, period. And then we do some...
I'm going to jump in on that real quick, and because I think that's important for dads especially. I think we as dads have a real tendency to try to do big grand gestures, and we ignore what Heath just said. We ignore a family dinner, and we ignore the value of just separating your phone and creating an environment. And so I think maybe for the dad who is like me, or like most dads who says, or like Heath, who may just want to plan the grand gestures, it's these small little daily things. Exactly what you just said. I'll let you go on, but I think it's important to note that, because I have that tendency too, when all our kids want is for us to freaking look at their eyes and sit and talk with them. And our wives, like, I think our wives, I think we don't give them enough credit. I think they are actually much more easily pleased than we might think. And that's just from our full presence. I think you can make a lot of mistakes and make up for it with full presence, and the vice versa. I think you can do a lot of things right, and you can blow it all for a lack of presence. Go on in your rhythms.
Completely agree. I found that Well, one, when you're in that environment, I mean, just have some go-to questions. For us, it's super simple. What's the high? What's the low of the day? And eventually, 5 to 7 minutes later, you're in a deep conversation. You find out something, but it takes a little while, right? So you've got to give it time for it to extend. And by the way, be okay with dinner some nights lasting 2 hours and some nights lasting 20 minutes. Like, just go into it with that mindset. We've got a friend that always says, quality time is only found through quantity time. Like, you don't know when that moment's going to happen. It could be on the ride to Target. It could be a family dinner, but just, give yourself the opportunity to get there. We really try to gather in circles. So again, the dinner table, we have a hot tub. The hot tub's a great place for conversation. You don't want to bring your phone in the first place because you're dropping the water and you ruin it. So just, if you can build your environment so that you're looking at each other, it makes it that much easier. And man, this is really underrated, but we all do it. If you're going to watch TV as a family, put the screens away. Watch a movie without a second screen. I mean, you're still, engaging with technology, but the truth is, like, it's an actual experience, right? You're joking, you're pointing, you're laughing. Like, my wife's love language is quality time. And one night she said, Heath, all I want you to do is watch The Bachelor with me. I cannot stand The Bachelor, but I've learned to love it because all I do is sit there and make jokes, right?
Eric loves The Bachelor. This is his wheelhouse.
Listen, the more we hang out with you guys, the more I like you. No, but it's so, like, y'all are speaking and Kevin and I are looking across the room. It's just like nodding because it's a lot of so the purpose of what we do here is we are not experts. We don't have any answers, but we have experiences, and we're trying to open up space for dads to have conversations about this type of stuff because I think that we're not the most emotionally aware creatures or available creatures sometimes, and just hearing you all, just like, it speaks life into me because we're going through the same types of stuff. And hearing you talk about some of this tension, like we have to get to a point to know the tension you're talking about, like work and home, and a lot of these topics are not, if your intent is to solve them, you're going to fail. They're not meant to be solved. They're meant to be managed. Like, how do you manage this stuff better? And what I love about what you guys have created is you have created a tool that if used properly, can help you manage this tension so much more effectively. And I really believe it's one of those things that compounded consistency, if you can do this type of stuff, you're going to look back no different than your 401k if you've been faithful for a long period of time of giving and be like, oh my gosh, look at this return. If we can be faithful with what we do with our devices and how we give time to ourselves and our family with them aside, the return is going to be massive. And I believe you guys are changing families. I really do. The trajectory of families. It's a beautiful thing.
So let's look out 10 years. You're going to have a 21-year-old, a 17-year-old, and 13-year-olds?
Just olds, yes, plural.
Twin 13-year-olds. Yeah. Man, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a 16-year-old, so a driver, a 13-year-old girl as well, and a 11-year-old. We're doing this right now because we want the next 10 years to have different outcomes for that. Heath, Joey, 10 years, look out for Auro. What will success look like? How are you guys going to quantify that you have put a dent in the universe?
I want to answer that first a little bit differently than you've asked it. Is that what the life you just described, Kevin? You just described, man, I'm gonna get maybe a little choked up talking because I told you I was a crier. You just described me when you described your decade away. So let me give you two pieces of advice before I answer what success looks like for me. Let me give you guys two pieces of advice. The first one is, do not overcomplicate this. Do not overcomplicate this stuff. Stop trying to make the big aspirations without having the daily disciplines. Like, don't overcomplicate this. For all the guys, don't overcomplicate this. This is not as difficult as you think. And Eric, you just said it too, and I love it. And I just written down this word. You said compound consistency. The word is consistent. Just be consistent. Our friend Jared turned 30 a couple weeks ago, and I wrote an email to him. And it was, if I were to give you advice going into your 30s, is just be consistent. Do those unsexy things every day. It's the little things. It's make eye contact every day. To do those little things like Jim Valvano in his great talk. He talked about being moved to tears every day and like feeling your emotions every day. And just do those little things. The greatest thing my wife and I have done this year is take walks at night. That's it. And it's just, and that's actually inspired by our friends Dave and Shelley, Eric, who you know.
I see them walking all the time in the neighborhood, man. They're keeping it up. So
phone-free walk time. It's those little walk times. So it's that consistency. So I want to give you all that, and what you'll see, the results, success. What you'll see will be kids who love to hang out with you, and it'll be kids who get along very, very well with their friends. Kids who are well-adjusted. Kids who are maybe doing things a little bit differently than their friends. So that's to start with that answer. I want to encourage you all with that, because you've just described my life, and I got about 5 of those years right. I didn't get the first 5, so you guys have about a 5-year head start on me there. So I would say for me, when it comes to 10 years out for Auro, again, I'll give maybe a little bit of a different answer here. I've found myself, as we're in this journey, I've found myself living a lot less in the future. And some people will maybe say this is a bad idea for you, but I find myself living with fewer long-term goals and finding myself in this moment where, like I have today, when God called Moses, God told him all the things that he wanted him to do. And then Moses said, well, God, what if they don't believe me? What if they don't believe that it's you who sent me? And God asked him a question. He asked Moses, he said, Moses, what's in your hand? And it was his staff. He goes, okay, you're going to throw your staff in front of them. It's going to become a snake. That same staff parted the Red Sea later with the Egyptians. But that question is the question that all of us have, and this is the question I have for myself, is what am I holding in my hand? Let me be faithful over what I have in my hand, because that's called stewardship. And where we really get in trouble is we try to be faithful over what's in somebody else's hand, because that's coveting. You're wanting to steward what they have, not what you have. So when I think of success for Auro, I don't really think as maybe I should 10 years down the road. I think, what can I do today? Because we have a huge goal to create an entire generation of intentional families. And that's going to begin with the things that I do today, right now, the relationships I make, the contacts I make, the things I put my hand to, the conversations I have, the strategic direction we go in the business. So for me, my answer would be, I'm focused on what I have in my hand today. And I believe if I'm faithful with that God will take care of the rest in the future. What do you got of that? He top that, sucker.
I was going to say I want to make it cool to be off your phone, but that's down there. It's cool. No, I think I think we do have not just us, but a lot of folks are really thinking about this, and how do we bend culture? How do we make sure that, look, we're the guinea pigs. My generation is the guinea pigs. Our kids are the guinea pigs, and they're telling us, our kids are telling us, young adults are telling us, we don't want this anymore. So let's shift culture now. Let's give parents the confidence and clarity and a plan. That's all you need, is a plan and an easy system to implement, so that 10 years from now, you're like, wow, it looks different for us. Like, yes, we have these devices, but they're a tool, right? They're not a distraction device. So yeah, I want to make it cool for families. I want families to say we're an Auro family. Like we're intentional about the way that we use our devices.
Yeah, your answer is good. That was good.
Oh, thank you.
You're better than mine.
But before Eric lands this plane, how do we get it? Tell guys what they need to do. What's the first step?
Yeah, in the spirit of simplicity and not overcomplicating it, literally all you need to do right now is just go download the app. You can have 7 days to try it to see if it works for you. I think it's going to, and because we hear it from thousands and thousands of families. But if it doesn't, here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to give up the fight. This is worth it. If Eric were sitting under 325 on the bench and he lifted it 3 times and then he stopped on the 4th, right? He couldn't make it up on the 4th, which he could. But if he didn't get the 4th one up, you wouldn't quit weightlifting forever, right? Like, you would come back the next day and you'd lift a little bit more. So for us, if you find something, if Auro perhaps doesn't work for you, keep fighting the battle. Like, we tell people to start with yourself and stop at nothing to get it right. So for me, I want people to go download the app, try it out, try it for yourself. If it works for you, get your family on board, invite your family, and then make a declaration to your family, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're going to be in our home. If you want to level up, you can get the box from there, but let's not even think that far. Today, no one has an excuse. If you are listening, just download the Auro app, try it out for a few days and see if it's right for you.
I love it. Well, listen, guys, I will say I am so thankful for this conversation. Kevin and I get to, we go grab breakfast every month, and we just decided to put a microphone in front of our face. This has been the most probably convicting conversation I've had. I knew it was going to be fun. Intentional families are worth fighting for. And just learning about you all, seeing what you're doing socially, but then being able to sit down with you guys here, there's not 2 better leaders to go after this thing, and we're with you. We'll support and continue to spread the word because you guys are doing meaningful things. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You guys are doing awesome stuff, and the impact you've made on my family personally, it means a ton. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Makers with Kevin Scott and Eric Blumenthal. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.